for me it's morning. I should give my report at 11. 11? 11. Let it be 11 o'clock.
No, we know times go differently. We know about that.
There is no time at all. What was in the past doesn't exist. The future is also doesn't exist. And that in reality every second became a past. There is no life at all.
No, but there is love always.
All we need is love.
When I was invited here before our lunch to make a report, I understood that that would be my last report in ISCAR, because hungry participants of summer university wouldn't allow me after that. So now I have a chance that it will be not the last report.
Good.
I have a big plan for this story about reflexive activity approach as the variant of one of the practical directions in cultural historical psychology. But I think that I have no time to tell about everything I want. So, the parts of the report are the following. No. Previous. I want to ask you first, and then I will tell you something. My question is the following. Who did ever read Vygotsky Thinking and Speech or Thought in Language translated? One, two, up, okay. One has not read the book. And who didn't read? Also? Why you didn't read?
So, first I read, and then I reread, and still rereading. I don't have this book read completely,
Yes.
because it's such a deep book.
Nikolai, right you are. It is impossible to read this book, because you first should decide what is this book about. The title is not informative. The other question, who noticed very important words who was on symposium? I think you understand what will be the question. The words, one step in development may mean 100 steps, or one step in education or learning may mean 100 steps in development. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now the question only to those who answered yes for previous question. Who can explain the mechanism, how one step in learning can give 100 steps in development? Who can explain this mechanism? How is it possible? No. Your hand. I don't see your hand. One. And again, the question to all of you: who want to learn one version of how does this mechanism can work? Thank you. Now I can. Yes. I want to try to explain this connection between this variant of connection that Vygotsky just, I don't know how to say it in English, and I don't know how to say it in Russian. He in the one and only one place he wrote these words. Ekaterina Zaretsky, who read all the notebooks of Vygotsky, didn't find these words. One step in development, 100 steps, or one step in learning, 100 steps in development. No, only in this paper, speech and thinking and speech. And there is no
Manuscript.
manuscripts, no manuscripts. Luciano in Italy, he told, he said that he kept this manuscript in his hands. Maybe he noticed these words. So, and one more interesting thing. We couldn't find no references in Western works where these words were published. No one. In Russian papers, sometimes somebody mentioned these words. I read this book when I was a student in the 70s of last century. Then, in 1999, when I understood that I used a very strange term, the zone of possible difficulties. What is in the power of the child to understand and to do with the help of the elders. And then I understood that that is the zone of proximal development. I know this concept. And I began to read with new eyes, because I found in the text of Vygotsky the concept that was very important for me and that explained what we did in practice. And the third, turning to this book and to these words and to the text of Vygotsky, was in 2012, when I was invited with the help of Fedor Vasylyuk, who made advertisement for me, that I am a great specialist in helping children with in overcoming difficulties in learning. And I was invited to the conference of the fund Children, Дети МСК.ру, where they discussed the problem: how is it possible to make normal the development of the children who are orphans, who are with complex disabilities, who are spend their life in the hospital because they make a lot of operations and the perspective of their health is nobody can say about this perspective, what will be with them. But the successful medical help put this problem. What they will do, how they will live, if everything will be okay with their health. They have no social experience, they have no educations, they saw only the walls of the hospital and communicate with medical workers. That was 2012. On this conference, my report was the following. We worked with the children of common schools with difficulties in learning. We worked with the children with invalids, yes, with different disabilities. We worked with orphans. We worked with the children with deviant behavior, and with students, and with teachers, and with parents. But we never worked with such a category of children, and I think we never will work with them. Because I think that our very good approach, of course, can do nothing with this problem. We worked there for 4 years. This center for children is in 13 kilometers from here. And you can see these children, and you can see the videotapes of some achievements of work with them. And if I have time, I'll show you only one example of such interesting work. Those who were on the first part of our symposium, and it was the second part of the symposium, could see this poster. There is this example, there is that Pasha, case of Pasha. So, first, I want to prove that this idea that one step in learning or education can give or can mean 100 steps in development is the main and most important idea of Vygotsky in his new theory of development. I think that as the concept of zone of proximal development, even in 90s, was used by a few people. I know the books about psychology of development, where in the chapter of cultural historical psychology, there's no mention about this concept zone of proximal development. And that's the book 1998. Now we think how it was possible. Strange. How can be the theory of development without this concept? I think that the theory of development can be without this concept. One step, 100 steps. And that is the main idea, and that is the main mechanism. And one more argument from Vladimir Petrovich Zinchenko in his article devoted to Vygotsky in 2011. That was the year of his 80th birthday, and he wrote a book and a different essay about famous psychologists and scientists. And he wrote the following, discussing these cases. He wrote that if the teacher not so well, will be able to help will be able
to interiorize the art, to subjectivate the art.
Both will be able to help in the zone of proximal development, but this zone will become the perspective of endless development of the child. For us, that was very important words. great support, because I struggled with defectologists for 20 years against the idea of bordering possibilities of the child, to have a term, the children with limited possibilities. The concept of zone of proximal development is the base that there can't be any limitations, because it exists always, and what is in the zone can be interiorized, yes, and can go to the zone of actual development. And I have examples of such cases that can be, according to this view of defectologists. One of our articles was refused in this magazine of defectology because it can't be at all. It was an article about a girl with middle level of this mental disability.
Mental retardation.
Mental retardation,
Yeah.
yes. Till 1999, in our country there was diagnosis can be learned, can be developed for children. That is the case. And she played chess after our help. And they refused to publish this article because it isn't good. As that American who saw the giraffe in the zoo and told it can't be. It exists. It exists. I have 16 minutes before one. I think it will be interesting to make an exercise because you could feel this growth, not just learn about something about it, but you can feel how it is possible. So very quickly, all the slides, one by one. That's the some ideas of the report. They are not interesting now. No, I say, but how is it possible? Well, I also told about the case. I also told about that nobody mentioned about this idea. That is interesting. You can read because before these words about the perspective of endless development of the child, Vladimir Petrovich Zinchenko, it would be question. The main idea of Vygotsky is that education yes, precedes development. But once education makes one step, and development 100 steps, a lot of steps. But education is in front of development. How is it possible? And we'll try to answer this question at the end of our discussion. But that's our point of view. I also articulated it that that is the main idea and the final idea of Vygotsky's theory of development. I think there will be an interesting discussion from what ideas consist of this theory. But for us, very important four is first, that education is in front of the development, then zone of proximal development, then cooperation of child and adult, child and adult.
Collaboration.
Collaboration, interaction, but not acting upon child. Cooperation means that child and the adult are equal partners in their interaction. Maybe the input of child only 1% of their common activity. And the input of the adult, 99. There is also cooperation. And acting, I don't want to destroy this picture. But acting means no self-activity and acting upon the child. That is the language for making, manipulating, and so on. And that is a very important principle, because all the pedagogical and psychotherapeutic systems and all the ways, variants of interaction between people from this point of view, or on one side or on another side, and another side, on the other side. If we, here is the limitation, we can't do a lot of things. I couldn't begin my report if I didn't ask about something for you. Is it interesting for you to listen to my report? And I began it only after that I saw that you are interested in this content. You can think about the consequences if we begin to work in this way. Next. That's very important. You can read. That's this sentence I noticed only in October of 2015 when I finished my article about this principle. It was published in Cultural Historical Psychology at German. I never saw this. But this sentence goes after the words, one step in the learning. Learning can be 100 steps in the learning. And that is the most positive movement of new theory. That's what Zaretsky wrote about this idea. I think that you did notice also these ones. And one more very important thing. Vygotsky wrote this chapter just before he left. We have no manuscripts, but we can reconstruct the time when it was written. That is maybe March, maybe April of 1934. From the beginning of May 1934, he was in the hospital and didn't write anything after that. And it is very important to understand that the most productive years that was 7 years of his life, he was near the death. That is the book that Nikolai shows you.
Psychological
the
dictionary.
Huh? The
P1,
dictionary.
P1, psychological dictionary. Do you remember?
The authors,
Perezhivanie P1, psychological dictionary.
the
1931.
authors, Vygotsky and Warsaw.
That's the real book.
It was published in 1931, but finished in 1927. And Warsaw died in this year. And Vygotsky was in the hospital, and the doctors, and he has no perspective. The doctors were sure that he would die also. And what Vygotsky writes about Warsaw in this, in the beginning of the book.
So I will try to sound as poetic as possible, but I don't guarantee.
And you can think what about whom he writes these words.
So what he had to do, in front of him, was much more than he managed to do. And the measure, the significance of what he was supposed to do and what remained not done was much more than what he had achieved. And that was the true, tragic part of his death.
These words can be about himself. And I think that he wrote about himself, not only about Warsaw. That is a very interesting part, but it was included into a report to prove that the theme of development was the most important for Vygotsky. We can go further. He began as a practitioner. Yes, he solved the problem of defective children. And at that time, he wrote that for blind is normal to be blind, for deaf is normal to be deaf. That is not the obstacle for normal development. Then, that is the time when he wrote this most important work about psychological crisis, and when he made a strong accent on the practice, that future psychology is the psychological practice. The finish of this period, the history of development of eye-psychic function. You can see the part of works that devoted to the theme of development. 22 in month 30, 8 in month 18, 17 month 30. And the finish of this moving, the book about history of development. Further. And in this, it is very interesting that the concept of zone of proximal development, the words. First, Ekaterina Zavishna wrote that in notebooks, you can meet it earlier, in 1932 maybe, but in the published works, first as an image. You can read it in the work dated as 17th of March 1933. And 23rd of March, that the text about developing of this concept that he created in the text. He began from intellectual imitation and finished with the idea of cooperation. In 5 pages, he distance for 80 years from intellectual imitation. And the last period, the principal addition to what was done before, this idea, the main idea for us. It is very important because if this mechanism is reality, we can help this category of children that live in 18 kilometers from here. If there is just beautiful words, metaphor, but not psychological mechanism, we can do nothing. And now about reflexive activity approach. It is so the schema. That is the original understanding of this zone of proximal development. Why it is important? It is important because the main force of development is the adult who cooperate with the child, and he interiorizes his experience, but not the experience of the adult, but the experience of their acting together. And that is why our approach we called reflexive activity approach. Because reflection, these slides were prepared in different times, so you can meet here 3 different variants of the word reflection. But now we use reflection. Because the reflection is the key to the idea of Vygotsky how natural functions, psychic functions can be high
mental functions.
High mental functions. The man is the owner of these functions, and reflection is the process that can create this owner. That's some process in me, but I can have a power on this process, and I can control it. But that is the original picture. The second picture is another. There is a special history, I have no time for it, how we came to the idea that this is not the only plate, the plate of some content of their interactivity of child and adult. That may be mathematics, language, geography, football, chess, any kind of activity. And in any kind of activity there is some zone of proximal development. But when the child gets the experience of the help that the help of overcoming together with the adult of this difficulty, he also got the experience of how it is possible to overcome some obstacles, not connected just in this material. There is some generalization experienced. And in our practice, we had such cases. One, for example, we worked with the children with a Russian language, with their mistakes, and help them to learn Russian, not to make such mistakes. That is the first article about 98. But after that came they are successful in all their, let's go, in other subjects, in mathematics and history and literature. How is it possible? We worked only with the Russian language. Are they successful? They should go to a special school and they go to the university. How is it possible? That was the question in 1997. And the answer was 2 years ago. And the key concept for us also that has no exact translation to English, subjectness, or the position of agency. Subjectness, that Russian, from subject. That means that if the child is in the cooperation with the adult, he is the subject. The adult also the subject, but not the subject who act upon the child, but who help to help in self-development. Why we call our approach reflexive activity? That's not teaching, that's not learning, that is not education. That is the activity that directed on overcoming difficulties in education. And the child is the subject of this activity. And the adult only counselor, help him, assist the child. Even the input so different. If we see this process and this mechanism as a principle, then we can imagine that these vectors may be a lot of vectors. Not only the experience of overcoming different obstacles, but inner obstacles may be very different. The, you know what is learned health policies. Yes? Nothing works because no activity from the child. We can make diagnosis. The child can't do anything. He has no abilities. But if he overcomes this obstacle, he begins to do something. Moving begins on all these vectors. And that is the case when one step in education or learning. For example, one mistake that he stopped do in the Russian language. He understood, I can write without mistakes. What should I do for not making these mistakes? I should do something. I should be active. I should believe that I can write without mistakes. I understand. I want to learn language. What for I want to learn language? I want to be a writer. I want to be a writer. I should read much, a lot. And so on. And the reflection is also one of the vectors here. Много пропускаем и переходим this. There are different colors to sign that there are different combinations of vectors. And every child has his own combination of these vectors. That is the case of helplessness, learned helplessness. We can't work with mathematics or language or reading. That is the problem. That is the epicenter of the problem. We should do something with that. And we should, from this position, involve the child to this some activity. And every time that is a creative task for the adult. All this process is very creative process because we have principles, but we don't know how to implement these principles in concrete situation. We have limitations, we know the borders, we know what we shouldn't do, but what we have no answer what to do. We must solve this task every time as in new. And we got this new experience. And now the case of Pasha. Case of Pasha. Pasha, he lived here, not far from here. He was 13 years old. That is 3 years ago. Diagnosis on arthrogryposis. No muscles. He can move with his hand like this. He can move with his leg. He can write and draw with a pencil in the mouth. And he couldn't eat. He couldn't do anything by himself. He didn't move. He didn't want to. Arthrosis. There was an arthrosis for his legs were done, but he didn't use it.
Artificial legs.
Artificial, yes. This overcoming of learned helplessness was this event of overcoming of learned helplessness was in playing chess, when he moved with a chess figure with his hand. And he understood that he could do something by himself. In a week, he began to eat by himself. He created the ways how to do that. Very interesting. Then, that was February. In August, we organized summer school. He wrote as his own project, I want to try to learn to play the piano. Not a few days ago, I have a lecture for the teachers, musician, and I asked them, if such a Pasha comes to you and says you that he wants to try to learn to play the piano, they answer, we need to take him, but we can't teach him. It's impossible. And then at the end, there was 5 hours I had, more than here. And at the end, I show the boy who plays different instruments and harmonica. But didn't say them who was that. And one teacher, that is Pasha. That is Pasha. The Pasha, 3 years after that event of overcoming learned consciousness. Not 7 class, that's my mistake. 9th. He went to school in the February of the 2013 to the 6th form, because but he hadn't knowledge for primary school. Now he is in the ninth form. Then he lives independently. He do everything by himself. If he can't do, he asks for help. But who from us don't ask for help sometimes? He plays chess, the best player, play piano, guitar, percussion instruments, harmonica, plays football, acts role in the school theater. His parents found him. The mother left him in the hospital, and for 10 or more years he didn't know about him. But then she discovered that he lived and he found him. And now he planned to be the radio commentator. That's his own idea, because nobody interested in his legs and hands, just listen to his voice. And he undiscloses now. That's our chess, then different diplomas in chess also. He plays piano, right? But he was taken to the musician schools. And then when I show this photo in Quebec, somebody told he would be the radio commentator. He can do everything. That's that is in Russian, and that's what we have in English, I think. No, only the first. That is our poster session and symposium. If somebody wants to, that is the principles, limitations and technologies of reflexive activity approach. That is our chess project for 12 years. Very interesting. Also, if somebody wants to find the results, that is the ISCAR Johannesburg. And that is our, we call this how flowered blossoms, because this scheme, multifactorial model, we call flowered. And we growing up as a growing up of the flower. So I began not at 3 o'clock, but at 3:10. Having these 10 minutes on, I finished exactly 2 nights at 4 o'clock. I want to show you this mechanism. I need, I think, 5 minutes. Who wants to be this child with some difficulties in learning, maybe learn helplessness? You can go here. You can't do anything. Your experience is that it is impossible to do something. You have no sense. It has no sense to do something. And that is your not ability. I even invite somebody to help to hold this
Ribbon.
ribbon, to hold this ribbon in this.
Another
The people with absolutely. Okay. And now you can think about the resources. What can help Slim to overcome, to solve this problem, to overcome learned disability? Any vector. That are resources, but they don't work. The experience, previous experience, is so strong that it is impossible, it has no sense to do anything. Who have ideas about these resources? What can help? What is your name but not real name? No. Any name but not yours. Maybe you can help, you can remember somebody.
Kelly.
Huh?
Kelly.
Kelly. Let us Kelly. What can help Kelly to overcome this unsolvable situation? There are resources. Who? What can do adult? Yes, maybe you can. You can also can. You can help. Please. Yes, if you have some idea. Okay. One of the resources is wish. Who want to be the wish? You have wishes, but you don't. Well, you can be here, but don't. No. You should hold it, but it doesn't work. There are no movements here. It is impossible.
Oh, they are connected.
That is the problem epicenter. You see this point, the problem epicenter. It's here, on this vector. And after other vectors doesn't work. I have wish, but I don't tell even myself about these wishes. It has no sense to have wishes. Nothing can be with them. Another idea? Mm-hmm.
What is this? I have the support of others, but I don't use it because I think it doesn't help me. You have adults.
Support of others, but not using.
What you want to translate? Then translate.
Имеется в виду поддержка других, которая в принципе есть, но сейчас не активно не используется.
Yes, and it can be received because it has no sense. The word sense is very important. Sense is also resource. Very beautiful sense. Full of sense.
Self-confidence.
Sense of any activity.
Yes. Self-confidence and
Self-
самоуверенность, вера в себя. Trusting
Self-confidence.
his own.
Do you want to be self-confident?
Yes, I do.
No self-confidence. No self-confidence. Sense. Also beautiful. Who will be the sense of any activity?
You mean experience of any activity?
Meaning, that's not correct word. Meaning, sense, what for, sense between the wish and the activity. The relations. What to do and what for. That is
still
Yeah.
in the sense.
It doesn't exist.
George wants to be the sense.
Oh,
Okay.
you with the
He
same.
brings sense to everything.
Yeah. That's exactly.
No. It should go. No
No
movement.
tension. No tension.
Movement, potential movement is only here. Here is nothing. Wish, sense,
Okay.
motive, maybe, motive. I think it mere wish. Motive, wish, sense, self-confidence, potential support. Activity that is blocked. Any other ideas? One, two, three, four, five. We have not 100 steps, but only 5. Because we have only 5 steps. That's okay. For instance. I don't know how, but the event, we have this event when Kelly have got the experience of doing something successful together with the adult. And the movement begins on this vector. So, no.
Smoke there.
It doesn't block other vectors. The movements you can do the same. Yes. Now Kelly is ready to do anything. And the problem at the center may be on any of these vectors, because here is everything okay. He will try, he will help, support, he will do what he wants, he has motive, yes. His self-confidence growing up, and he will use the sense of this activity. For example, in this book, it describes the case of 4 children who didn't want to study Russian language. One of the girls told that it has no sense because Russian language is so complicated. There are so many rules that she would learn words but not the rules. I told her that there are in Russian only 100 rules and words 100,000. Oh, then she said that let it be. I will learn rules. It was the vector of sense. Another boy, he told that he stopped his studying school after the 9th form, and he would work and never deal with Russian language in his future life. And his neighbor told him, you want to work, but you should write a statement to work. And if you couldn't do that, nobody take you to any work. And he said, let us learn Russian. That was also the vector of sense. Another boy, he studied at school where nobody speaks Russian in Kazakhstan. Even the teacher who taught them Russian. He has no knowledge of primary school. He didn't write words. He wrote what he listened, and that was the text without words. That was a very simple problem. Just the beginning knowledge, the sphere of knowledge, the sphere of this pedagogical plane. And we began from the very beginning. And what was sense, he wanted to study, but it was impossible. He couldn't understand anything, he couldn't read, he couldn't write anything. And one case was therapeutic. That was psychological trauma. The boy, when he was in the first form, his teacher made suicide. And at the day, there was the conflict between him and the teacher. And the director invited him with their mother and told him, you obeyed your teacher, and she suicide. And he lives in there with the idea that he can do something unfamous to him, and somebody can kill him after that. He afraid of any his self-action, afraid of everything. And he every day made one and the same mistake, very stupid. And for 2 weeks he couldn't overcome this mistake. And when I learned this history, I told him, I can't help you, you can help yourself. And next day, he stopped making this mistake, and then he became the student of the university. That was the only help that in this situation that, oh, we should go to the psychotherapist and to have a long, long sessions. Do you feel something sitting here with your actors?
A lot of support because of the tension.
And that moment, just repeat this one. Wait, we can't hear it closer. Only this moment. Yes. The beginning of this moment. And you at the same time. Oh. Support. Without support it is impossible.
At the beginning, too much tension here, and then afterwards, tension is equilibrated because it's divided because of the support. So I have lots of smaller tensions now.
And the last, but very important point. Where is the reflection here? It's maybe a special vector. And how does vector work? Who will be the vector of reflection?
It's honest to be reflection.
Some years ago, we begin to put down with the child such a table. You will be here, I go there. Here, what the child could do by himself.
Автомат сработал.
Any, he can, for example, can count, or he can write some simple words, and this kind of activity that, or he can play chess, he knew how the figures. how they stayed on this chessboard. Then, what he couldn't do, yes, that is the zone of actual development, that is the zone of proximal development. And he learned this border between two zones. That is first act of reflection, second act of reflection, third act of reflection. Then we write with him what was helped by the adult. What did adult do in this situation when the child couldn't do something? Я больше, ты дальше уже все знаешь.
Нет, мне очень интересно, какое чудо, впереди, какое чудо произойдет. Вот, но я боюсь, это связано со взрывами, поэтому я уезжаю.
Так, кто-нибудь срочно возьмите эту ленточку со взрывом.
It is very interesting for me to know, Vasiluk says, what is going to happen next, what miracle is going to appear here, but he's afraid that it is connected to explosives. He's afraid that he needs to go now.
Взрыв творчества и рефлексии.
Explosion of art, creativity and reflection.
Спасибо большое. Желаю вам успеха. Всего доброго. Очень интересно.
And what was the result of this help? What we give to the child in this situation. And then, what can be the next step in their interactivity, in their cooperation? If the child in this act of interaction did something new with the help, according to the formula of Vygotsky, what he did together, today, tomorrow, and did by himself. If he understood what was the help and what was the result, what he can do now, what happens with him in this situation, he can answer this question. Well, our teacher on the open lesson once forgot to give home task. She was nervous. 40 teachers, directors, the representatives from educational department, and she forgot about home task. The lessons was over, and all the children from the class, she worked in this way with them, around to her and began to to explain her what she should give for home task personally. That was the most strong situation in this lesson. It was just lesson, good lesson, but the finish was fantastic. So that's all. Reflection is here on all the components and on any vector. Once at the end, that is the traditional procedure of the end of the lesson is the question, what was happened to you important on this lesson? And once we worked in the class with this very widespread mistake.
Unstressed vowel in the root of the word.
Yes. And we asked the children what they do useful for them because she understood that her mistakes are created by this inner process. That's all. Thank you.